Welcome to the fastest daf in town, Tanil Masechtas Bava Kama Daf Kuf Dalid. We are going to begin on Kuf Dalid with Aleph, about 6 lines from the top by the 2 dots. Lo yitin lo livno v'lo l'shlucho. So our Mishnah said in yesterday's daf that if you stole something, you are supposed to bring it to the actual nigzel, to the person you stole it from. And therefore, you should not give it to his son or to a shliach, because if it gets lost along the way, the din is that it's not considered like it was given to the nigzel. And therefore, you should make sure you bring it yourself. And again, as we saw in yesterday's daf, based on the diak of the Mishnah, it's daf in a situation where you made a shvua. But if you didn't make a shvua, it's considered like a pikadon by you, and therefore you don't have to bring it. We also saw another important concept. There was a takana gedoyla, that in the event that it's more expensive for you to go than for you to than the actual thing you stole, then you can just bring that amount, the karen and the chaimish, to Beis Din, and then you can bring your asham. So Idmar, Shliach Shiasa Be'edim. So what is this? Says Rashi. Reuven Sheish Lo Mos Biad Shimon. So Reuven has money, and it's in Shimon's hands. So Shimon has Reuven's money. Umina Shliach Be'edim, and he appointed a Shliach in front of Edim, L'kablam Himenu, that these Shluchim should go, or the Shliach should go and get the money that belongs to Reuven from Shimon. V'nasdim lo, and to give it back to Reuven. So very simple. Reuven has money in Shimon's hands. So instead of Reuven going to Shimon himself and getting his money, he appoints a shliach to do it for him. Okay, so that's the question. A shliach she'asa be'edim. If a shliach that's done in front of witnesses, Rav Chisda Omer havi shliach. Is this a shliach? Rabbi Omer lo havi shliach. So we're going to understand this in a second, but let's just look in Rashi. So according to the Shita of Rav Chisda, this is a shliach. V'im nensu b'derech. Therefore, if let's say an accident happens along the way, potter. Baal habayis shenastimlo. The loive, the borrower, Shimon, who gave the money to the shliach, is potter. He doesn't have to come up with more money. The fact is that since Reuven appointed a shliach, in order to get his money from Shimon, as soon as Shimon gives the money to the shliach, that's it. He doesn't have to He doesn't have to come up with any more money because he's the shliach. Or we can say, "Lo havi shliach." Okay, so let's understand this machlokas better. Back in the Gemara. So Rav Chisda Omer havi shliach hachi tarcha ve'ukmi be'edim. That's the reason why he had witnesses. Delay k'bershusei. Basically, to say that he now has the full authority to take the money from Shimon, because Shimon otherwise would not have done so. He wouldn't have had witnesses. Obviously, he was doing it in order for Shimon to realize that he can give the money, and that's it. He's not going to have to worry about it anymore. This, the man, I believe, I trust. In other words, that if you want, you can bring the money to me directly. If you trust this guy, trust him. I'm saying that this is a somewhat of a trustworthy person, but the reality is that if it gets lost, then that's it, right? Give it to my hands, but not my shliach. Shada biyadeh, and give it to me. So I'm basically giving you an option. I'm saying I have this guy who can take it from you. If you trust him, then fine. But if not, then give it to me myself. So Tanan. I think that's the basic premise of the machlokas. Hashoyos apara. A person borrows a cow. V'shilcha biad beno biad avdo biad shlucho. O biad beno biad avdo biad shlucho shel shoyel. So upon borrowing it, he ends up giving it to his shliach or the borrower's children or his children, and then along the way, umesa, this para that you borrowed, now it's being returned, but it wasn't actually returned back. So what happens if this animal dies? So pater. So the borrower is pater. Says Rashi, Deloy kamaber shashayel was chai ba'insin ad shiermelo mepiv l'shalcha loy biyad b'nai. So in this situation, the lo kama b'rshus shoyel, it did not go into the rishus of the shoyel to be mechayim and oinsin until he says mepiv l'shalcha lo biyad b'noi. So what exactly is this case? So what ends up happening is not that the cow was already by the borrower. But what ends up happening was the shoyel, someone wanted to borrow a cow, and the lender sends the cow through a shliach. So the shoyel never actually end up having the para in his own rishus. So therefore, in that situation, the borrower is going to be pater if an oinus happens along the way. It's only if it actually got into the hands of the shoyel. But since it was never in the hands of the shoyel, this shoyel is pater for any oinus, even though the shoyel appointed him like a shliach, as we're going to say. So hay shlucha hechidami ido yasab edim manayadinon. If there weren't with witnesses, how would he know? We see clearly that if a shliach she'asa be'edim, we see that it should be lo havi shliach. It's not considered to be like a shliach, because if it was like a shliach, then we should say then he would be chayiv. The shoyel should be chayiv, right? Because even though the shoyel appointed him as a shliach, nonetheless, we still see that the shoyel is pater. Why is he pater? It must be because it's like Rabbi, who says that lo havi shliach, that even though he made him a shliach, it doesn't have the same capacity like it's you yourself. And therefore, just like we said above, if Shimon would give the money to a shliach, but he ended up losing it, we would say that it's like he didn't actually, he's not like a shliach, and therefore he has to basically give it back. He has to give back the money again. He has to come up with this money. So to over here, it's the same thing, that the shoyel is pater. Why is the shoyel pater? Because he never received it, and even though he appointed a shliach, it doesn't mean anything. It's not like he actually had it. So Kidem Rav Chisda b'schiroi u'kitoi hachanami b'schiro v'u'kitoi. So what is this? So Rashi says, Shaloktu etzel ladurimo bebeso with savata ba'alma lashon moiri. So basically, it was taken for it to live with him in his house, like as some type of command. Uschiroi niskarimo yom chodesh shana, that you rented it for a day, a week, or a month, or a year. So what is that? How does that answer it? It's because Tanan lo yitin lo livnoi lo shlucho. Fine. So that's what it's talking about. There's a special case. It's not really talking about a normal circumstance. And therefore, you're right. Really, Rav Chisda would hold that shliach yasa b'edim is a shliach. And therefore, the din is, again, when Shimon would give the money to Ruvain, he would, the loiva would not have to give it. Right? He would be pater. So too over here, if we hold like Rav Chisda, we would normally say the havi shliach, and therefore the shoyel, this guy should be chayiv in oinsin. However, in this situation, it was only given to him under these pretenses, and therefore because of that, even though there was a shliach involved, this will be an exception, and we're going to say that in this situation, even though shliach yasub be'edim is loy havi shliach. But again, it's only because we're talking about a case of liktoi schiroi liktoi. Okay, Tanan. Lo yitin lo livnov lo shluchai. So our Mishnah said, don't give it to the son or to his shlich. So hay shluchai hekadami. Either way, also be'edim and ayadin and alav diasin be'edin, that there was actually with witnesses. Still, the ganav is still chayav to give it back. So he should not to the actual person, not to the shliach. So we see clearly that shliach shasa be'edim is loy havi shliach. No tigam Rav Chisda b'sichra b'u'kitoi. That we're not talking really about a case of shliach shasa be'edim. We're talking about b'sichra b'u'kitoi. That again, he was being paid to for a certain amount of time, etc. Therefore, really, Rav Chisda will hold shliach be'edim is a shliach. But over here, we're not talking about a normal case of a shliach. We're talking about a person who's being renting it being rented with him, etc. So at the time they say shliach based in So we said, oh, you know what? Instead of you giving it to their kids or to the shliach, give it to the beis din, then you're free. So why does it mention that at all? Just mention the case itself. Don't mention about shliach beis din. Say, shliach shasab edim hachanav shliach. So just say it that way. Sa'amri lu psikale. We didn't want to mention it this way because it's not always that case. Shliach beis din loishan, because when it comes to shliach beis din, as we made this takana, that no matter what, as soon as you give it to the beis din, that's it. You are free, no matter what happens to it afterwards. Loshna asu nigzal, loshna asu gazlan. Havishliach psikale. It doesn't make a difference who appointed this beis din, who created this beis din. In either situation, nigzal or gazlan, it's always the same din. As soon as it's in the hands of the beis din, then the gazlan is considered ki'u, like he returned it. Therefore, we mentioned that simple case. Only when the victim makes this beis din, then will we say that it's considered to be like a shliach. Also, gazlan, but the gazlan is the one that constructed this beis din. So we're making a distinction between whether it's the gazlan or the nigzal regarding the shliach shasab edim. Okay, again, not making a beis din. When it comes to making a beis din, it doesn't make any difference. Shliach shasab edim. So it's a difference if the nigzal has a shliach, appoints him as the shliach, or the gazlan. So if the nigzal does it, so then we say that's good enough, because the nigzal is saying, this guy is my shliach, and therefore if you give it to him, it's kiyu like you gave it to me. However, when it comes to a gazlan, as we said, if the shliach is the gazlan's, so then the fact that it was given over to the shliach, that's not enough. It has to actually be given over to the person. Rav Shimon ben Elazar Omer shliach beis din she'asa nigzal v'losa gazlan also gazlan l'sholach halav anatla shalom yado pater. So according to one shita, it's clear that when it comes to a shliach beis din, that the nigzal agreed to, but not the gazlan, or that the gazlan made, the shalach halon, the victim sent, the natal shalom, took that which was his from his hands, potter. Okay, so anyway, so we see, fine. Rabbi Yochanan potter. Rabbi Yochanan Rabbi Lezer never tavayu shlesh yasem edim havishliach. So we see similar. They hold like the din of Rav Chisda. Im toimer mishnah seinu. How do we understand our Mishnah that says that you shouldn't give it to the shliach? So understand, as we said, if it wasn't with edim, then menayadinon. It must be that there were edim. So if that's the case, there were edim. So shliach shasem edim. Why can't you give it over to a shliach? So we say b'mamtzi lo shliach is where b'mamtzi lo shliach. The Armele Isli Zuzi, basically he encountered him. The Armele Isli Zuzi Gabi Planya. I have money by this person. And he's not sending it to me. This Chazile, can you see him? Dilma Inishu Doloi Mashka Chashturile. Maybe he just didn't find anyone to give the money to deliver it. Inami could have right? As we said, but without Adim, since it's with an aid, he would be a shliach. Okay. Rabbi Yehuda Amar Shmuel. Okay, let's look at question 3. Shliach shasu gazlan o nigzal be'edim him have a shliach lifter hagazlan. So he said like this: if the gazlan made it with edim, it's nothing. It was made by the nigzal, it's a machlokas. So if the gazlan does it, it's nothing, because if the shliach loses it, but it was the gazlan who pointed the shliach, so then the gazlan still has to return it to the person. But if the nigzal did, it's machlokas. Question 3b: Shliach Beisin Shiasu Gazlan Nigzal Im Havi Shliach Lifter Hagazlan. So we said Shliach Beisin Shiasu Gazlan Machlokas. Also Nigzal Havi Shliach. If the Shliach made him, if the Nigzal made him, it's definitely based, then it's good. Shliach Beisin Shiasu Gazlan. It's actually Machlokas. I thought we said Lopsika because there's actually an opinion of Rav Shimon ben Elazar that says that also Gazlan. But not to Shalom Yado Potter. Okay. Patim Oinis, but Haderach Rashi says time but the natal hanigzol. That's only because he took it. It's only because he took it. Nenes min hashliach harishon chayiv. Otherwise he'd be chayiv. So it's interesting. It's actually is a machlokes here as well. Okay, it's only because the natal es shulo miyado pater. Only dafka because he took it. Because he took it. But otherwise, if he didn't, then he would still be chayiv. So we see that even when it comes to shliach beis din, according to this shita, that when it comes to a gazlan who appoints, that it's a machlokas. Okay. Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Shmuel. Kuf Daled Mabez. Ein mishalchin mois. We don't send money b'diyukni, says Rashi. Maser lo bal hapikadain, giving over a safekeeping l'shliach simonim, for the shliach with simonim. For kasavlei, says Rashi, chay samab, you sign a letter, l'masel, and you give it to him, v'yarmelo lech, go and show it to Ploni, v'yitin l'chamoy sheishu b'yado. Okay, so we don't do such a thing. But feel edim chasumim aleha, even if you have witnesses signed. Rabbi Yochanan Omer, im edim chasumim aleha, if there are witnesses signing mishalchin, then it could be sent. Amar Shmuel ma'itakanta. So he says, what is the remedy? In other words, how does he get his money back if it is far away? Then he had Rabbi Abba havi masik zuzi bid Rav Yosef bar Chama. So there's an issue that there was money over there. Amalei Rav Safra. So he said to Rav Safra, bahadi de asis asinhu nihili, that while you go over there, Kiazal Hasam, like when you go over there, can you get my money for me? Amalei Rabba Beret mi kasavlach hiskabalti. Did you write hiskabalti? Did you write a receipt? That it says Rashi ba'oisai bekabaltu shel Rav Safra. Amalei lo, I didn't write a receipt. So Yehachi zil bereisha diyichtav loich hiskabalti. Then go and write it. L'soif amalei ikasavlach. Even if you wrote it nami hiskabalti lav kumhu. That even that receipt doesn't do anything. Because Dilma the osis, maybe when he was on the road coming back to us, shach of Rabbi Abba, that Rabbi Abba, who was old, maybe died, therefore his shlichus would have been batal before he received it. But Nafal Zuzi Kamiyasmi, and then the Asaimim are the one that inherited. His Kabbalti, the Rabbi Abba will have Kumhu, and therefore his Kabbalti of Rabbi Abba doesn't do anything, because if Rabbi Abba again died because he was old, so then it wouldn't work. Since Rashi Havi Ansil who Minoch Beorcha Ti Boilon Yasmi, the Yisomim would claim it. So even though Rabbi Abba was okay with it, but if he dies, so his children may not be okay with it. So then what do you do? So Zil Nikninhulach Agav Ara. You should do a Kinyan Agav, as we see in Kedushin. Rashi says Nechasim Shena Machrayis, nickname Nechasim Shesha Machrayis. V'ta'at kasav on his kabbalti, then you write a his kabbalti. So therefore, once that's done, you're kind it right on the spot. Ki hadra papa havi masik tresar alfi zuzi bei chozoi, that there was a significant amount of money that was owed. Akninhu nihili Rav Shmuel baraba agav asifa de besa. So he was able to acquire it through a kinyan agav by the threshold of his house. Ki yasa nafik apei ad tavech. When he came, he went to greet him ad Tavech. Says Rashi, Halcha Karaso ad Tavech Shemakim. He went to this place. Shoy Samech Shahavi Lo Moisav, that he brought him his money. So he's so happy he got his money. So basically, he said that a way you can be kinded immediately is by doing a kinyan agav. Nasal Nasa Karen V'chu Alma. So he said that if he gives the Karen or Moichel on the Chaimish, so the Chaimish you don't have to give. So Alma Chaimish Mamoinahu. We obviously see from here that Chaimish is considered to be is considered to be money. Why? It says Rashi Mid Itzrachle Lemisne Itzrachle that you don't have to go to give it. Alma Mamoinahu Gabe. It must be it's considered to be money. V'Mayis Mishal Malay Yarshin. Therefore, if the Gazlan would die, the Yarshin would actually inherit the Chaimish as well. So that's what we see. Tananami, we also see similar to this. It says Nasan as a Karen. If you gave the Karen her Nishma Chaimish, but you made a shvua against the Chaimish that you lied on that, so now the Chaimish, as we said, becomes the Karen, and therefore you have to pay that as the Karen, and then Chaimish on that. Hari Moisim Chaimish al Chaimish. You have to keep adding a Chaimish onto that Chaimish because that Chaimish that you lied about now becomes the Karen. Alma Chumshim B'moinahu. Again, we see another proof that Chaimish is money. The Taninami Hachi Goizlas Chavero, you stole from your friend, Vinishbulo, and you make a Shua Sheker, which means you're going to be Chayiv also Chaimish, Umes, Yarshim Mishal and Karen B'Chaimish. So it says clearly that he also, the Yarshim get not just the Karen, but also the Chaimish. So again, Ubetur Min Ha'asham, obviously you're potter from the Asham, because that's only the person that would bring it, and the Baal actually died. Rashi does say if you were mafresh, the carbon asham wasn't makriv, so then it requires re'iyah, needs to be grazed. However, if you were not mafresh it, then you're putter legamri from the carbon asham because it's in kapar l'mesim. V'yarshin b'nei shlumi. So it says v'yarshin b'nei shlumi chumshid avohin havi, and the children again collect the chaimish of their father. So again, al chaimish b'maynahu by shlumi yarshim. So again, we see numerous proofs that Chaimish has a din mamoin. So question 4. Man nafkamin ladina mehad chumshim mamoina v'loy kapara. What's the difference if it's mamoin and not kapara? So he said when it comes to yarshim, the yarshim, if it's kapara, like by the asham, there's ein kapara l'mesim. So therefore you don't do an asham. So the question is, do you have to give chaimish if a person died? So the Goslin still has to give the Yorshims, the Nigzal's Yorshim, the Chaimish too. Also, we are Moisav Chaimish al Chaimish im Nishma v'Haida. So we say, why do you have to be Moisav Chaimish al Chaimish? It must be because it's also considered to be a din mamoin. So Raminhi. So the Gemara is questioning this thought, this logic, and we said Daini Yomer can still say Masay in Mashal Chaimish. When do you not have to pay Chaimish al gezel aviv on your father's, that which your father stole, bizman shlo nishba lohu v'lo aviv, where he and your father did not make a shvua sheker. Hu v'lo aviv v'lo hu v'aviv menayin. How do we know when it comes to a situation where either of you or both of you did make a shvua sheker? Tamalomer asher gazal v'asher ashak v'hu lo gazal ashak. So his father is the one that stole. So even though it's true that you made a shvua, or your father made a shvua, the din is that you do not have to pay the chaimish. So what do you mean? Why would you not have to pay the chaimish if it's mamoin? So Rav Nachman l'kasha kan shahida kan shlohaida. It depends. If, says Rashi, kan shahida aviv b'chayiv, if the father he made a shvua sheker, but he admitted that he lied after he made the shvua, so then he's chayiv karen and chaimish, and therefore that chaimish now has to go to the yorshim. However, the Bryson, Torah Kohanim, it says it's talking about a case where he was not hoida, and therefore, since he was not hoida, therefore the din is that there's no din chaimish. Okay, so ilu hoda karen namulu mishalim. I understand why would he have to give even the karen? He should not have to give anything. He doesn't have to pay anything. The fact that they're trying to get the chaimish must be that the Karen was already dealt with, which means the Karen must have been paid for. I understand if it wasn't hoided, the only time you have to pay. There's a din of paying Karen Chaimish and Ashim is dafka when you make a shvur sheker and you admit. But over here in this situation, you were not hoida. That's what we're establishing. That's the reason why there's no din Chaimish. There should be a din Karen either. But furthermore, Tanya v'yadainani omer masehu mishalim Karen. When do you have to pay the Karen? Al gezel aviv bezman shenishbahu v'aviv. Aviv lo hu v'lo aviv lo hu v'lo aviv menayin to whenever gazel v'oshik aveda pikadon yesh. So aveda pikadon. So we have obviously a big problem over here because we see the same din as my Karen. So what are you talking about? So Talmud Leimer so yesh Talmud Leimer v'Yosef Rav Huda v'Karmel hashmaisa. So it's possible that you could answer this question. Amalei Rabbi B'rei yesh Talmud Leimer mar. Oh, how do we answer this? Oh, yesh Talmenu kaimer. It says or you pay it. Oh yesh Talmenu kaimer mar. That's what he's saying. Says Rashi, Tana Mikra Maisila, the Tana learns out from the pasuk Kol Hani Ribuye, who all these additional languages of the pasuk, Shahaben Chai V'Shalim, that either the son has to pay, Oyish Talmenu Kaimer Mar, Mustaber Hu Mishalim V'Lo Mikroi. Okay, so Omrle Yesh Talmud Lemer Kamina Umrbisa de Kroi Amri, from the extra pasuk he's trying to say, he's chayiv in Karen. So what he's trying to say? He's chayiv in Karen, but not in Chaimish, which is because maybe Chaimish is not Mamoin. But if he didn't admit, so why is he chayiv in Karen? So how do we understand that? So we're going to say, since a boy, the boy was moida to the theft of his father, but if he swore, he should be chayiv and pay Chaimish on his own false shvua. That's what we're going to say right now. So, so since the son admitted, so that's the reason why he has to pay Karen. So the chayiv b'no chaimish shvua didei. So then, if the son made a shvua, then not only should he be chayiv to pay Karen, then he should also be chayiv to pay the chaimish. Amri b'she'ein gezel kayemes. We're talking about a situation where the gezel is not around. And since the gezel is not around, as we're going to see very late in this Masechta on Kuf Yud Aleph, Hagoizel Meichlas Banav Patur Mishalim. So you won't have to pay if it's gone. Hilkach Ikafar Kfiras Devarim Ikafar Kfiras Devarim Ba'almehi Shvuas Bitu Yehu Deleka Chaimish. This is not considered to be a din of Shvuas Sheker because the Gzeil is no longer around, so therefore there's no longer a din of Shvuas Sheker of having to pay Chaimish. Rather, it's a Shvuas Bitui, in which you would maybe have to return the Karen L'chayra. Maybe we'll have to see the next question in the Gemara, but you wouldn't pay Chaimish. So what's that? Gezel Kayemis, I feel Karen Namilu Mishalom. We just said that based on the next parak, it says by Hagoizel Michael, it says Patur Milshalim, not Pater from paying the Chaimish, you're Pater from paying everything. So why would we make a distinction between Karen and Chaimish? L'chayra, you don't have to pay the Karen back either if it's not around. Well, Tzricha De'ika Achrayas. So there is Achrayas Nechosim. Says Rashi, Shim Haniach Avihin Achrayas Nechosim Karkois Chayev L'Hachzer Minei Kavod Avihin. So if there's a din achrayas that it's properties which are connected, which if it gets taken, so that he's responsible to come up with that money. That is something which he said regarding the Karen, and therefore that's why he has to return the Karen because of kavod avihen, because it's the chasim sheish ben achrayas. The chiika achrayas nechasim my havi milva al pehi. I don't understand. It's like an oral loan. So you shouldn't have to collect from l'kuchais. There's no din if it's like a din of milva al peh. So Amri, the Gemara says in Kuf Ham and Aleph, it's b'sha'amad badin. So since there was a mother badin, it's not considered to be like a milva b'shtar al peh. It's like a milva b'shtar. So So okay, fine. So if it's so strong that because it was already alma bedin that there was a chiv to pay, so then if that's the situation, it's like a milva b'shtar. So then you shouldn't only be the son shouldn't only have to pay back the Karen, should also have to pay back the chaimish. So you do not have to pay chaimish on kfiras shibud karkais. So therefore, because of this din, says Rashi, even though you made a shvua on land, says Rashi, Einish shpoin al karkos. There's a basic din that we don't make a shvua on land. V'hai ben ki eshtaba karfalo shibin b'hakarkos. So when the son was kaifer, he was only kaifer regarding land. If it wasn't for the fact that there was the chasim achrayas on it, he shouldn't have to pay back anything. But certainly he won't have to pay back the chaimish. So there was, it says Rashi, Olam b'gzel kayemas. Really the gzel is here. So if the gzel is here, l'chayr should be chayiv also in chaimish. The dikashul chayiv haben chaimish al shuas atzmo. Kivan dehoydis hacha k'shahisa diskia shemamin avim nasanla mufkedes b'yad acherim. So when the son made a shvua, he didn't know that his father had this geneva, since it was in someone else's hands. So he isn't chayiv to pay chaimish, since it isn't a lie, rather just an error due to his misinformation. So therefore, that's the reason it was mufkedes b'yad. This was held by someone else. So the son, even though it was a lie, but it wasn't an intentional lie. So keren mishalim da isa, he has to return the keren because it exists. When he made it, the son made a shua bekushta ishtaba. He thought honestly that he wasn't lying. It was just misinformation. He didn't know that actually it was stolen, but it was just in someone else's rishos. The son just didn't know it was ever taken, and therefore for that reason he wouldn't have to pay chaimish. Okay, we're going to stop there. Let's maybe see another question. Question 4, I think we saw already. Again, whether the Yorshim would be able to collect the chaimish, or also being Mishnah says you're moisel chaimish al chaimish if you're nishba and b'hoida. Okay. TA2. Hagoizel is chavero of a nosan hu l'shliach beistin. Madulo katani nosan l'shliach she'asa be'edim l'mad yamer havi shliach. So as we said, l'psikta. Shliach she'asa be'edim who rak b'shliach hanigzel. The only time we say shliach she'asa be'edim is only if the nigzel is the one who made the shliach. However, shliach beistin, the eve helps even if the gazlan does it. Again, it's not like this other shita, so it's interesting. It's a little psika, but it really is psika. So shliach she'asa be'edim the chiyasa nigzel who havi shliach also gazlan havi shliach lo psikale. However, when it comes to shliach beistin, loshna asu nigzel loshna asu gazlan havi shliach psikale. So that's the reason why TA2 we make this distinction in that manner. Okay. TB3 shliach she'asa be'edim l'madir b'dahavi shliach, according to the shita of Rav Chisda, that's a shliach. Ketzi atarts mastisa etani lo yitin l'shluchai v'imlav the asu be'edim minayadinan. So how do we answer this question of our Mishnah? How do we understand our Mishnah? So he said b'mamsi lo shliach. So let's see what I wrote over here. Ulai b'shluchai beistin shezem moyel. So it could be talking about it was shliach beistin. Okay. Who rak roitza leida shehu ish neman. He just wanted to know he was trustworthy. Bli edim. Oh rak be'edim zem moyel rak lenigzol v'loy legazlan. Okay, not a very easy question over here. TB3, and this is what it says over here. Shliach she'asa be'edim havishliach v'im tam mishasenu b'mamsi lo shliach, that he encounters a shliach. Diarmele isli zuzi gabi planya. I have money by this guy. Deloy kamishadu who hasn't returned it. Is chazile dilma inishu deloy mashalach ashturive. Maybe you could just get it back from me. Inami besichro lakitoi. These are the correct answers. Okay. Adkan.